It's Friday. This is going to be an in and out pod. Got one more division to knock down in terms of the schedule and making a prediction for the upcoming season. There was football on my television screen last night, and it was a sight for sore eyes. We'll talk about that later on in the show. And anything else you guys want to get to today on this podcast, the Louie T Network podcast starts now. Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 282nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Of course, I'm your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. We had NFL professional tackle football on the television last night. You know what? It wasn't half bad, especially the first half. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. We've knocked down 7 divisions in the National Football League and their schedules and the subsequent records that I feel like each team will have. We've got one division left, the NFC South. We'll knock that division down today. And then we'll get to your comments and what you guys have to say on this dark and dreary Friday afternoon. Once again, thank you for joining me here on the Louie T Network podcast. Let's not delay. Let's get straight to the proceedings this evening. We have a gem dropping session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, NFC South. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about this division and its 4 teams and the 4 schedules that they'll be facing in the upcoming season. We start with the two-time, well, actually, last year was their first year winning the division. They didn't win it the year they won the Super Bowl. So let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is this Brady's last year? Don't know. Just turned 45, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is his last year. I don't like when guys start talking about retirement. He's already signed a contract to be a part of a broadcast team when his career is done. That's not a good sign. But Brady's the ultimate competitor, and so you'd like to think he'll be able to rev that up, put all of that aside and play football. But that's something that I'm just uneasy about. That said, I talked about the Buccaneers schedule from afar, just indirectly running into the Buccaneers on multiple other team schedules and talking about, man, they must have a tough schedule. I looked at the schedule and it's not as bad as I thought it was, but there are some heavy hitters on this schedule, and you'll see that very quickly as we jump into their schedule. I'll give you the schedule rundown quickly, and then the 2 pockets that I think are important, and then we'll get to their final record and then move on to the next team. So real quick, at Dallas week 1, that's a Sunday night contest. So it's almost like a home and home. Last year, the game was in Tampa on a Thursday night to kick off the season. This year, it's on a Sunday night at Dallas. So that's going to be an epic game. The game last year was fantastic. This game, I think, is going to equal that as well. At New Orleans, week 2, home for Green Bay, week 3, home for Kansas City. That is on a Sunday night. So hopefully we get Brady, Mahomes, maybe for the last time. We'll see. Versus Atlanta. So home for Atlanta week 5, at Pittsburgh week 6, at Carolina week 7, home for Baltimore in week 8. That is a Thursday night football contest. So hopefully Lamar Jackson is healthy, spry, and running around. That would be a really fun one to watch. Week 9, home for the Rams, a rematch of the playoff game from last season. These seem like the 2 teams that you're going to have to beat if you want to get to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford's dealing with a little bit of elbow tendonitis right now, shoulder, I should say, tendonitis, I think. But if he's fine, the Rams are going to be fine. That might be a big game, just like the one that was played last year in the regular season between these 2 teams early in the season. Week 10, home for Seattle, actually over in Germany. So the first ever Germany game will be played between the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bye week after that Germany game. You come off the bye in week 11 at Cleveland week 12. Will Deshaun Watson be in the lineup? Don't know. We'll see. Home for New Orleans, week 13. That is a Monday night football contest. Generally speaking, when New Orleans plays Tampa Bay in Tampa on national television, it's a bloodbath, and it's usually Tampa Bay doing the bleeding. So we'll see if that trend continues. No more Sean Payton. Maybe that trend turns this year. We'll see. At San Francisco, week 14. Home for Cincinnati, week 15. At Arizona, week 16. That is a Sunday night football contest. So another game that could be a lot of fun. Kyler Murray and company. We'll see what that looks like week 16, if they're any good and if Tampa is any good. Home for Carolina, week 17, and at Atlanta, week 18 to finish up the schedule. So let's look at the first pocket of the schedule that I think is important for Tampa Bay, and that's weeks 1 through 4. I mean, can you get any tougher than the start of their schedule in the first 4 weeks? I mean, yikes. It's a who's who of NFL royalty, really, in the first 4 weeks. At Dallas, that's as big a draw as you will get. Brady versus America's team on national television. The last game of week 1 slate for the Sunday portion of the schedule. It doesn't get any better than that, honestly. And I'm a Washington fan. I can't stand the Cowboys, but that is must-see television, right? The game last year was off the charts good. I don't know if they can duplicate that, but man, that's tough to start at Dallas, right, on a Sunday night. The following week, you're on the road again at New Orleans. That's consistently been the one team in the division that has been able to beat Tampa Bay with Brady in tow. So that's going to be fun. We'll see what the Saints are. It's going to be a good test for the Saints early in the season. Jameis Winston should be back, and they've got a whole bunch of new parts offensively. Hopefully Michael Thomas stays healthy. That should be fun early in the season. And then home for Green Bay, home for Kansas City on a Sunday night. I mean, that is a brutal stretch. At least 2 of them are at home. It could have been worse. 3 or 4 could have been on the road. But you start the first 2 on the road, you come back home, and you're like, finally, we can exhale, kick our feet up. And Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers are coming to town. And then the following week, it's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's tough. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You're playing against the last 3 NFL MVPs 2 weeks in a row. So that's a tough stretch, but they could start that. And I really see them going 2-2 in that stretch. You pick whatever 2 you want for them to lose. I think they go 2-2 in that stretch. They could go 3-1. I don't see them going any worse than 2-2. So I don't see them going 4-0 in that stretch either. But they can overcome that. The only reason I even bring it up is because it's just a tough stretch of football, period, in the discussion. I want to go all the way down to the back end of the schedule, post-bye, weeks 12 through 18. So the final 7 games of the season. And why this is relevant, it isn't because of the teams that they're playing on the schedule. It isn't because of the home game relation to road games or anything of the sort. It's just wherever they are in the season, this is an opportunity to get hot. When they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, this was a team in turmoil. Late season bye. They're still trying to figure things out. No one was afraid of Tampa Bay going into that postseason. But what happened was they beat up on a bunch of bad teams. They got their mojo together. They started scoring a bunch of points, and they took that momentum. They took it into the postseason, and they ultimately ran through the entire NFC. And it was a tough slate of teams that they had to go through, including on the road at Lambeau against the Packers in the championship game. So I look at that last pocket of the schedule, the final 7 games post-bye, and I say, can they get hot? Because I think they're going to lose some games the first 10 weeks. I think they're going to lose 3 or 4 games. I've already told you, I think they're going to start season 2-2. So they could conceivably go into the bye at 6-4, which isn't a terrible record, but that's not what we're accustomed to from a Tom Brady-led team. They could be 5-5 going into that bye for all I know. I don't see them losing that many games in the first 10, but still, whatever happens in the first half of the season, they've got a chance to really right the ship, get hot, and maybe poly that momentum into another run at a chip. So the back end of the schedule at Cleveland week 12, is Deshaun Watson available or not? We're going to find out here in the next week or so. If the NFL has it their way, he's not available in week 12. At bare minimum, he gets 12 games. I still think he's getting 6. New Orleans at home, and that's a Monday night game. That's been a house of horrors for you. Your house against the Buccaneers, against the Saints, on primetime television has been a nightmare for you if you're Tampa Bay. You would prefer it if the powers that be kept you off of primetime television against these Saints at home for your safety. Not for the Saints, but for your safety, okay? Anyway, that should, if you're going to lose a game on the back end of the schedule, that's the one that I'm looking at and saying, you at home against New Orleans on a Monday night, that's scary because the Saints, they don't care about your house. They've been as disrespectful as any other opponent in the league going into a family member's house. They've been the most disrespectful that I've seen outside of what the Buffalo Bills did to the Patriots in the playoffs. But that was at home. Like the Saints usually come, they kick your door in, punch you right in the mouth, tell you to sit the hell down, and they proceed to rummage through your house and do whatever the hell they want to do. At San Francisco, week 14, home for Cincinnati. These are not easy games, by the way. At Arizona, that is on a Sunday night. Home for Carolina, and at Atlanta. This is by no means easy, right? But it's doable. So that's going to be another stretch of football that I'll be paying attention to with these Buccaneers. At the end of the day, I just don't see the rest of this division measuring up. I see the Buccaneers finding a way to navigate their way through this schedule. It is not as tough a schedule as I initially thought. Trust me, Dallas, New Orleans, Green Bay, Kansas City, Rams, Cincinnati. There's some heavy hitters up here. Don't get it twisted, okay? I think they'll be able to manage. I got them going 12-5. I had them initially at 11-6. I think they'll right the ship. I think they'll start off sluggish with that tough schedule. I think they'll rev it up, win 5-6 in a row. You look up, they're 8-2, they're 7-3 going into their bye week. They'll come out of the bye, they'll win 5 out of their last 7, and they'll end up 12-5. That's kind of how I see this thing going. So 12-5 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to kick off this division. We now move our attention to the New Orleans Saints, who finished second in this division a season ago. No more Sean Payton. This is the first time we've been able to say that since, 2005? I mean, it's been an eternity. 2007, 6? I can't even remember the last time Sean Payton wasn't the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, other than the suspension year, right? So no more Sean Payton. Drew Brees was gone, a year ago. And so it kind of feels like the changing of a guard. The one thing that is consistent in New Orleans is they still play top-notch defense. And the reason I can say that with the utmost confidence is because the guy that was running the defense is now the head coach. So nothing has really changed. They've got the same defensive personnel, minus Marcus Williams, right? But they brought in Marcus May and the Honey Badger. So they probably feel really good about the back end. They'll be just fine. That defense is still buzzing. Okay, so if nothing else, they've added offensive weapons that I really like. Okay, Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry, like Alvin Kamara probably won't be suspended this year because they pushed his trial back a couple more months. More likely than not, that thing won't be resolved until sometime in 2023. So looks like he's going to dodge a bullet, at least for the upcoming season. So by all indications, the Saints look like they've got everything they need to be highly competitive this year. The X factor is and always remains Jameis Winston, okay? Because if he can't get it done, there is no one on that roster that can. Not Taysom Hill, not Ian Book. They're screwed. So he has to stay healthy, 1, and then 2, he has to play well. Can't turn it over. Let's go through the schedule, and then I'll give you the pocket of the schedule that I think is important. So at Atlanta week 1, home for Tampa Bay week 2, at Carolina week 3, home for Minnesota week 4. That is actually a London game. Week 5, you're home for Seattle. Week 6, you're home for Cincinnati. Week 7, you're at Arizona. That is on a Thursday night. Home for the Vegas Raiders in week 8. Home for Baltimore in week 9. That is a Monday night football contest. At Pittsburgh, week 10. home for the Rams in week 11, at San Francisco week 12, at Tampa Bay week 13. Talked about that already. That is a Monday Night Football showdown. Bye week after that Monday night game against the Buccaneers. Come off the bye, home for Atlanta week number 15, at Cleveland week 16, at Philadelphia week 17, home for Carolina down the stretch week 18 to finish up. So the first pocket of the schedule that I want to look at is weeks 1 through 3. So you got 3 straight divisional opponents to start your season. That's rare that any schedule looks that way. But in the first 3 weeks, you get each of the teams in your division. You don't even have a chance to breathe, and you're already playing half of your divisional schedule right off the bat. If you come out of the gate slipping and tripping, you could go 0-3 in the division, and just like that, your playoff hopes, or at least your hopes of winning the division, might be dashed in the first 3 weeks. You could rebound from this, but if you start 0-3 in the division, the likelihood of you ultimately winning your division, slim and none, especially with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looming, right? So, and 2 out of those 3 divisional games to start the season are on the road. So it's not easy. At Atlanta, home for Tampa, at Carolina. So I don't know what Carolina's going to be. Don't know who will be starting at the time of that week 3 game at quarterback. Doesn't matter. It's still family business. So that's an important stretch of football right out of the gates. If you're New Orleans, you got to come out playing some of your best football right away, because those are division games. Got to have them. Those aren't optional. If you do not win those games, you have a problem. The next pocket of the schedule doesn't come that far down the line. So those games I just referenced, weeks 1 through 3, there's a 2-week hiatus there. Minnesota on over in London across the pond, and then Seattle. Both of those technically home games. But the next pocket of the schedule I really want to focus on is a big one. This Saints schedule is actually pretty tough. It's pretty tough throughout. But this part of the schedule is intriguing to me. Weeks 6 through 13, which is taking you into your bye week. Got a late bye. So Cincinnati at home in week 6. At Arizona week 7. That's a Thursday night football game, so a quick turnaround after playing the Bengals. Home for the Vegas Raiders week 8. Home for Baltimore week 9. That is a Monday night football contest. At Pittsburgh in week 10. Home for the Rams in week 11. At the 49ers in week 12, and at Tampa Bay on a Monday night in week 13. Ouch. That stretch is brutal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of those 8 games are against playoff teams from a season ago. The only non-playoff participant is Baltimore. And we think they're probably going to be a playoff team this year. So, I mean, that stretch is absolutely agonizing. So I don't know how you navigate the first 5 games, the first 3 being all divisional opponents, 2 of 3 out on the road. But let's say you come out of that stretch feeling really good about yourself. You're 4-1, right? Only game you lose is to Tampa Bay at the crib. That next stretch of games, the next 8 games, is ultimately, I think, going to decide your season. I mean, we're talking about playoff teams from a season ago, playoff teams probably from this year coming up. That's a brutal schedule there. There's no way around it. The home games are tough. The road games are equally as tough. The start to the season is going to help shape how you come out of that 8-game stretch. Because if you, let's say the first 5, you're 3-2, and then you come out of this 8-game stretch at 3-5, well, now you're 6-7. Got to figure it out, right? Let's say you go 4-1, and then you come out of this thing 3-5. Well, now you're 7-6. You got a fighting shot, right? But if you come out of the first 5 games 2-3, and then you come out of this thing 3-5, now you're in trouble. You see where I'm going with this? Now you're 5-8. Now you're in trouble. You could go 4-4 in that stretch. You could go 5-3 in this stretch. It's not impossible. We think your defense is going to be one of the best in the league, and we think your offense has a chance to really be good. We'll see, but that's going to be a tough stretch. I like Dennis Allen. I don't love Dennis Allen. I like Jameis Winston. I don't love Jameis Winston. And because of those things, I got the Saints at 9-8. I wouldn't be shocked if they won 10 or 11 games because that defense is that good. But I got to see Jameis Winston. He's good enough to undo any good that the defense does. He's bad enough at times to undo any goodwill that the defense may be putting forth. So 9-8 for the New Orleans Saints as it's constructed at this current moment for me. Let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons. Go through their schedule quickly, then we'll get to the pocket. Home for New Orleans week 1, at the Rams week 2, at Seattle week 3, home for the Browns week 4, at Tampa week 5, home for San Francisco week 6, at Cincinnati week 7, home for Carolina week 8, home for the Chargers week 9, at Carolina week 10. That is the Thursday night game. That is the only primetime game currently. Now, that is subject to change, but that is the only primetime game that the Atlanta Falcons have. Week 11, home for Chicago. Week 12, at Washington. Week 13, home for Pittsburgh. Week 14, bye. So what we're noticing here is this division in particular has late season buys. The earliest bye that comes within the division is Tampa in week 11, but these teams are playing well into the season before they experience their bye week. Come off the week 14 or 13 bye, or 14, bye. Week 15 at New Orleans. Week 16 at Baltimore, week 17 home for Arizona, week 18 home for Tampa Bay. So let's go through this real quick. My pocket of the schedule for Atlanta is the first 10 weeks of the season. To me, that is a 10-game audition for Marcus Mariota to remain the Atlanta Falcons starting quarterback. Now, if history repeats itself, he'll be injured before this 10-game stretch is up at some point. He'll pull a hamstring. He'll strain a calf. He'll break his finger on someone's helmet. He'll do something stupid and be out 2 to 4 weeks before we even get to the end of this 10-week stretch. I'm rooting for Marcus Mariota, by the way. I really like Marcus Mariota. That said, the likelihood is that he probably won't be the quarterback by the time we get to the bye week, or he would not have quarterbacked all 13 of the games prior to the bye week, I probably should say. Either way, I think the first 10 weeks of the season are important, because if you can't find a way to make headway in the first 10 weeks with Marcus Mariota, then you're just spinning your wheels in place. And at that point, you probably need to go ahead and turn the reins over to the young fella, Desmond Ridder, and let's see what he's got, right? And you probably don't have to make that decision, honestly, until the bye week, because then you only have 4 games left. If you're out of playoff contention by then, just play the young fella post-bye and see what he's got in the last 4 games. That's, to me, the ideal situation. But I think these first 10 are going to ultimately determine where the Falcons are and whether Marcus Mariota holds on to that job post-bye or not. So home for New Orleans week 1, at the Rams week 2. Let's stop right there. Right? Got one at the crib against the Saints. Going to be tough, but you got to find a way to win. That's a rivalry game. I think in the division, that's the probably most intense rivalry is New Orleans and Atlanta. So that's a big one right out of the gates for the Falcons. At the Rams week 2. Ouch. Good luck. You're going to need it. At Seattle, the Seahawks, we all think they're going to stink. However, it's still at Seattle, okay? That's still tough, but you got to find a way to win that. If you're serious about having a season, you got to go to Seattle and win. Home for Cleveland. That's no Deshaun Watson no matter what happens, okay? The NFL appealed the suspension. He's not going to get less games than 6, so you're not going to have to face Deshaun Watson. You got to beat Jacoby Brissett. Don't let them bring their 2 running backs in there and run for 212 yards and beat you in your crib. At Tampa Bay, that's tough. I get it. I know it's tough. Home for San Francisco. Your run defense is going to be tested early in the season. Between New Orleans, Seattle, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, and San Francisco, all teams who love to run the football, you're going to have to stop the run. If you can't, you have a problem on your hands. At Cincinnati. Home for Carolina, home for the Chargers, ouch. At Carolina. So you got Carolina twice in a 3-week span, and that last one at Carolina is a Thursday nighter. The only primetime game you're scheduled to have this season. So in the first 10 weeks, you play 4 of your 6 divisional opponents on the season. And of those 4 games, it's 2 and 2, 2 on the road, 2 at home. So you got to find a way to navigate these first 10. It's not going to be easy. I've talked about teams like New Orleans, Tampa Bay, the Rams, San Francisco, Cincinnati, and the Chargers all on this schedule. And Carolina, that's family business. No telling what's going to happen in those 2 games. It's tough. Deal with it. Find a way to navigate. If you cannot, it's time to turn the reins over to the young fella, Desmond Ridder. I think the Falcons have a lot of roster building to do. I don't think their roster is anywhere near where they need it to be. They got some players. They don't have enough of them. I got the Falcons at 7-10 on the season. And I think Desmond Ridder is your starting quarterback going into next season. But I am rooting like hell for Marcus Mariota. Let's finish up and talk about this Carolina Panthers football team. Interesting dynamic here with them trading for Baker Mayfield so late in the offseason. Throws a monkey wrench in everything. I still think that Sam Darnold is the week 1 starter. But if they're smart, we know Sam Darnold stinks already. There's no need to continue to push that narrative. You have to find out about Baker Mayfield because you got to figure out if this is a guy you want to re-sign or not. So to me, you get him up to speed as quickly as possible. I was telling Washington fans that the likelihood is that Carolina will be playing their starters a lot longer than most teams will, offensively, that is, in the preseason. When we play them in week 1, I expect to see both of those quarterbacks, and I expect you can't put one of those quarterbacks on the field without an adequate offensive line in front of them. So because the quarterbacks have to be out there a little bit longer, I think you're going to see the offensive lines out there a little bit longer because you've got guys that are vying for a starting job. You got to keep the receivers and the skill guys out there. I don't think Christian McCaffrey will be out there, but they'll have the receivers out there and the tight ends and things of that nature. And I think they'll be out there a little bit longer. So that's going to be good that we have Carolina on the schedule because I think you're going to see the starters a little bit longer because they're trying to figure out who's going to start for them at quarterback. That said, they stole Baker Mayfield. They got him for next to nothing. And if they can get him to play the kind of football that we know he's capable of, they've got a shot. This schedule is very doable, and they've got talent. I just don't trust Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy, and he's such a big part of what they do offensively. And I don't trust their quarterback situation, and I don't trust Ben McAdoo, their new offensive coordinator. So there's a lot wrong with that pitcher in Carolina right now. That said, we'll go through the schedule. We'll go through the pocket of the schedule that I think is important, and then we'll get to the final record for them. So home for Cleveland week 1, at the Giants week 2, home for New Orleans week 3, home for Arizona week 4, home for San Francisco week 5, at the Rams week 6, home for Tampa Bay week 7, at Atlanta week 8, at Cincinnati week 9, home for Atlanta week 10. Again, that's the only primetime game for Carolina. The NFL did us a huge favor and killed 2 birds with 1 stone. The only time we have to watch Carolina or Atlanta this year is when they play each other on a Thursday night. That's the way you do it. When there's 2 teams that nobody else really cares to see outside of those 2 markets, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Thanks, NFL. Really do appreciate that. At Baltimore, week 11. Home for Denver, week 12. Bye week 13. So, again, another late season bye. Again, this division is chocked full of late season byes. So, come off the week 13 bye. At Seattle, week 14. Home for Pittsburgh, week 15. Home for Detroit, week 16. At Tampa Bay, week 17. At New Orleans, week 18. So, The pocket of the schedule that I think is the most important is the first 7 weeks of the season. The reason it's so important is because your first 4 out of 5 games are at home. Okay? That's crazy. Think about that for a second. Your first 4 out of 5 games are at Bank of America. Okay? Cleveland, New Orleans, Arizona, San Francisco. They're not easy games by any stretch of the imagination, but they're at the crib. In this league, you must protect this house. If you cannot, you have a problem and you will not be playing bonus football. You are not going to be invited to the dance. You will not be admitted in. Doors will slam shut and you will be on the outside looking in. You got 4 out of your first 5 at the crib, 5 of your first 7 at the crib. You got to take care of business at the house. Okay? So, home for Cleveland week 1. No Deshaun Watson. No excuses. It's the Baker Mayfield revenge game. If he's starting, good. Go win for him. If he's not, find a way to win anyway. Okay? I liken it to the game you played in week 1 last year against the Jets. It was ugly. It was sloppy, but you found a way to win at home. Find a way to win. Okay? Giants week 2 on the road. Most people think the Giants are going to stink. Don't underestimate the Giants on the road, okay? They got a new coach. They got Saquon Barkley back. They got weapons. Be careful. Tread lightly. Go there with the intent of putting those boys out of their misery early and often. They smoked your ass last year, if you recall. I don't know how you got beat that bad by the Giants last year, but you got your ass whooped by the Giants last year. Don't let that shit happen again this year. Home for New Orleans. Look, that's family business. I keep my nose out of business that doesn't pertain to me. Find a way to get it done. It's at the crib. Arizona at the crib. It's Kyler Murray. You've got the team speed defensively to make him feel very uncomfortable. Force him into a couple of errant throws. Do it. Make it happen. Week 5, you got Trey Lance at the crib. That young fella doesn't know if he's coming or he's going. Figure it out. Make him uncomfortable. Grind that offense down into a halt. They're going to want to run the football. Stop that first and then make Trey Lance beat you. You're at home. Figure it out. At the Rams, I can't help you. Okay, I can't help you there. And then Tampa Bay at the crib. Okay, and so, again, you got to find a way to navigate these first 7 weeks because 5 of them are at home. You got to win at least 3 out of those 5 games at home. At least, bare minimum, win 3 out of those 5 at home, and then you got to beat the Giants on the road. That'll get you to 4 wins out of your first 7. That gives you a fighting chance the rest of your schedule. And again, this is not a terrible schedule. This is a very doable schedule, but if you start off slow, it's going to trickle down to the remainder of your schedule. This team already doesn't trust your head coach. They already think he might not know what the hell he's doing at this point. So you start off 2-5 after having 5 home games. Oh, you might have a team that quits on the head coach. It's distinctly possible. So I look at this schedule and I was so high on the Panthers last year. And they were so disappointing last year. I can't get that stigma out of my head of watching them struggle with the simplest of tasks last year. I was a huge Matt Rule guy. I am no longer I think Matt Rule might be suited for college football. And that's okay. Not everyone is cut out for the NFL. Some guys are better in college with younger guys that are impressionable. And I think he may be one of those guys. I could be wrong. Christian McCaffrey has to stay healthy. I'm treating him like I'm treating Michael Thomas at this point. Who are you? I don't know you. I haven't seen you play football in like 2 years. Who are you? I don't know Michael Thomas. Who is that guy? I don't know Christian McCaffrey anymore. He's got to stay healthy. So I want Carolina to be better because their talent says that they should be, but I can't buy it. 6-11 for the Panthers in the upcoming season. I don't trust their coach. I don't trust Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy, and I don't love their quarterback situation. When you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. So that is the NFC South in a nutshell. So let's get to the comment section. You guys know the drill. If you want to have your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent, we'll knock it out. If there's nothing there, we will move on to the final segment of the show and get out of here. So let's see. Rich writes, this is why I rock with you, man. Unfortunately, my power went out, and about 30 minutes later, you go live and provide me with some entertainment in a needed time. You the GOAT, man. My power flickered. It didn't go out, but it flickered. I mean, it got crazy. The thunderstorms just came out of nowhere, and it flickered, but it didn't go out. So hopefully everything's good with you. Hopefully your power, if it is still out, comes back on. Because I can tell you, we're spoiled. This generation, is spoiled. I don't know what like when the power went out the last time, it felt like we were in the Stone Age. Because now you're preserving battery life on your phone. Can't waste it. Normally when you're trying to kill time, what's the first thing you do? You get on your phone, check your social media, you're playing Candy Crush, you're doing something. You can't do that when the power's out. You can't afford to be wasting your battery on social media. You can be wasting your battery playing some kind of game on your phone. So now you're sitting there trying to figure out what to do. When the power went out the last time, it was cold outside. So we're all huddled up in a room with candles trying to stay warm. It's snow on the ground outside, right? Which is why there was no power. It's a tough situation. The summer is equally as tough because if the power goes out, now you got no AC. And if it's 90 degrees outside and you got no AC and you can't turn on any fans because you don't have any power, you're screwed. So hopefully power comes back on ASAP and you can resume life as you know it. Glad I could help you out though, Rich. Mr. T Money 1993 says, I had to be here for this one. I'm glad to see you're here. You're probably not going to be pleased with what I have to say, but life goes on. Glad you are here. Always like chopping it up with you. Let's see. All right. I think that might be the last one. Here it is. Mr. T Money says Falcons will be picking top 5. They could be. I could see that happening. This is what I believe in. I believe in them having a schedule that is very favorable for them to win some games. I also believe that they got some elite, but they have an elite player in Kyle Pitts. And I want to see what this young fella, Drake London, is all about. I was not a Drake London believer, but if he's any good, if he is legit, if he's what everybody says he was going to be, they might have enough stuff, coupled with Cordero Patterson and what he brings to the table. And I like the trade for Brian Robinson, or Brian Edwards, excuse me. I like the trade for Brian Edwards. New lease on life for him. I think they may have enough all of a sudden, but again, it really hinges upon Drake London and him being really good, right? We'll see. I think they've got a chance to win some games. Mr. T Money 1993 writes, you don't think Deshaun will file for an injunction? Well, you got to see what they file. You got to see what they decide first. Right now, he's suspended 6 games. The league seems hell-bent on pushing this thing out to a bare minimum of 12. They want a whole year ban and a significant fine because now they're pissed off that he got to sit out all last year and collect a check. So they're trying to go after that money that he made a season ago. So there's a lot of different wrinkles to this situation. If the NFL has it their way, again, bare minimum 12 games and a significant fine. If that happens, Watson may try to, file an injunction. Again, that's why this thing is so convoluted. Ultimately, I think he gets 6 games. I'm not moving off of the spot until something happens differently. I think he gets 6 games, a significant fine, and we move on. So we'll see what happens. It's a messy situation though. Mr. T Money 1993 says Bake is starting week 1. Offensively, preseason week 1, both quarterbacks will probably get a chance with the ones. I've already figured that out in my mind. I've played the scenario out. If you're going to get Bake up to speed, he has to get as many reps as possible because no one really wants to play their starters in that 3rd preseason game. So all of the reps that you feel like need to be had between the quarterbacks are going to come in weeks 1 and 2. Specifically week 1, because you probably want to figure out which guy you want to move forward with and have him take the bulk of the snaps in the week 2 preseason game. So I feel like the Panthers are the perfect opponent to play in the first preseason game because you're going to get a significant amount of time, probably into the 2nd quarter, possibly the first half, but definitely into the 2nd quarter. They're still going to have a significant amount of starters on the football field. Mr. T Money writes, we signed Deontay Foreman from Tennessee as a better insurance policy for CMC. I mean, that's cool. I didn't have a problem with Chuba Hubbard. The problem is it doesn't matter who you signed. He's not Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is Mr. Do-It-All. You know, he does everything. He's Alvin Kamara. He's Deebo Samuel. He is your offense. And everything predicates off of his ability to run it, to catch it out of the backfield. And even when he doesn't touch it, the threat of him touching it opens up the rest of the football field for guys like Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, the tight ends, you know, Tommy Tremble, and all of those rest of those guys. You want production out of them. The best way to get it is to have Christian McCaffrey on the field. So that's a huge deal. Him not playing is detrimental to the cause of the Carolina Panthers. When he's on the field, they're a tough team to beat. When he's not, they're a shell of themselves. Doesn't matter who you bring in to replace. P-Low Dollars. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, need 2 tickets, a Ron Plan shirt. I'm going to get it to Ron. Did you leave it in the comment section of the video as I requested? If so, the next step is to send me your email via Twitter in the DMs. All right. I saw that a couple of people requested tickets. I'm going to check Ticketmaster to see if I'm able to send them out individually because I have 8. See if I can send them out individually, or do I have to package them together? I think I should be able to, give them away one at a time, but we'll see. As far as the shirt is concerned, I don't have any spare shirts sitting around, so I have to get more. Let's see. Mr. T Money writes, yeah, we're not underestimating the Giants after last year, and we normally do well versus the Cardinals. Again, as I mentioned, you've got the defense and the team speed defensively to bottle up Kyler Murray and make him uncomfortable. And those are the teams that usually have success against Kyler Murray. So you're going to have a shot for sure. Kyle, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Kyle, writes, you get upset when players make business decisions in game? Nah, I mean, depends on what that business decision is. Is he alligatoring in pass, alligator arming a pass that we need him to catch? If so, yeah, I'm going to be pissed off. That's what you signed up for. Yeah, no one wants to get hit. All right, but that's a part of the job description. When you sign up to be a wide receiver, you know that you're going to put your body on the line at times in some very compromising situations that most human beings wouldn't want to be put in, but that's what you signed up for. But if a guy slides, if a receiver, instead of taking a hit for picking up an extra 2 yards, decides to go down, a corner decides, that's a 230-pound running back. Nah, I'm good. Yeah, that sucks, but I get it. I mean, you break your shoulder, you're out, and you're in a contract year. I could be over here screaming, you need to make that tackle, but you're also saying I need to be able to sign another contract. So I usually don't fault players for doing what they feel like is in the best interest of their careers. But again, it depends on how it impacts the game. Clearly, you're getting paid. Just like I said, the receiver is getting paid as a corner. You're getting paid to make tackles, not just defend passes. So, yeah, it can be frustrating at times. When it's overt, that's when I think it becomes an issue. You can olay and miss a tackle, but look like you're trying, right? Duck your head, dive for their feet. They jump over you. Oh, well, he jumped over me. What can I do? But don't just olay. When you see guys doing that makes people upset for sure. Let's see. Mr. T Money 1993 writes, we win in 7 to 10 games. You might. I got you at 6, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that you win 1 or 2 more and win 7 or 8. I don't think you're going to be terrible, but I can tell you this: if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy for 17 games, you're probably going to win more than 6 games. I'll just say that. But I don't think he can do that. Till he proves to me that he can, I just don't see how that happens. So I got to see. Mr. T Money 1993 writes, Falcons will have the least production QB wise. Last year, Sam, 9 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, was horrible. He was. This is why you have to start Baker Mayfield. But if he's not ready, and remember, Ben McAdoo was saying before you traded for Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold's our starting quarterback. And then he had to walk it back because I'm pretty sure Matt Rule got in his ear like, dude, shut up. Don't be declaring who our starting quarterback is. We're working behind the scenes to get some shit done. Sam stinks. You just keep your damn mouth shut and coach the damn quarterbacks and the offense as a whole. Okay. So he had to walk that statement back. And we'll see. I don't want to just declare Baker Mayfield the week 1 starter, but that makes the most sense. I would do that if I were them, but just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's going to get done. So Mr. T Money 1993 writes, I heard the NFL really wants Watson to miss the return game versus Houston is why they're pushing for at least 12 games. I mean, I don't think it's just that game in particular, although that is an S storm, right? That's a shit storm if he plays in that game. But I think they're more concerned with the aesthetics, okay, the optics of this whole entire situation. Right now, from an optics standpoint, it's not a good look if he only gets 6 games. There are a lot of people that think that this guy is a creep, that he's a perv, and that he can't possibly get just 6 games. That can't be allowed. And then there are other people that are like, look, man, Robert Kraft did the same exact thing, not with 66 different masseuses, but he did the same exact thing, and you guys didn't even slap him on the wrist. Like, what are we talking about here? So it goes both ways. At the end of the day, I think the NFL is trying to save face. Everything that the NFL usually does from a disciplinary standpoint is usually in regards to trying to keep the best image possible that they're presenting to the public. So if there was no outrage or backlash, they wouldn't be pursuing this as heavily. I think about the Ray Rice situation. They had already seen the tape of Ray Rice punching his, then wife, or I think they're still married, punching his wife out, knocking her unconscious on the elevator. They had already watched the tape. And they gave him 2 games. It wasn't until that was leaked out to the media and we all got to see it where they said, oh, shit. He's suspended indefinitely. Like, that's when they had to actually suspend him and then tell the rest of the league, don't sign Ray Rice. He's blackballed. Okay. He doesn't work in this league again. You need a running back, go find somebody else. It can't be Ray Rice. If not for the backlash, if not for the public perception, Ray Rice gets 2 games and they keep it pushing. They had seen the tape. They had that tape in their possession. They knew what it looked like. They knew how bad it was. Everything that the NFL does is to protect the shield. So the Houston game, yeah, that's going to suck. They can get over that. It's more about the outward perception. The league isn't doing enough. They've been so, the league has been so progressive of late now. All of a sudden they're woke. They want to be out in front of, the LGBTQ, whatever other letters I may have omitted crowd. They're every commercial is including that group now. They're talking about domestic violence and they're holding people to the fire. If you even are, and this is, I hate this because it renders the players powerless, even though they may have done something wrong. You don't know. But like the Jeff Gladney situation, they didn't know if he had done anything or not. Vikings just released him. Like the NFL, that's where they are right now. Is you get caught up in some of that stuff, we don't have time. You better be like a superstar in order for us to not just cut you right out on the spot. So I think this is more about not wanting to put out a perception that we're not tough on this type of stuff. A lot of people are outraged and they want to pander to that. They want to cater to those people who feel like this is wrong. The PC crowd. Ultimately, I think the 6 games are going to stand. Now, Rodgers starting to insert himself into this thing. I could see this thing being elevated to 12. I don't see him getting a year-long ban, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Miss Perry, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, thoughts on Padres acquiring Soto and Bell. It makes them a very scary team, especially when they get Tatis back. It's already a brutal lineup to have to deal with Machado and company. Adding Soto to that mix it is really devastating potentially. They still got to pitch, and I want to see how it all meshes and gels together. Unlike other sports where it's like 11 guys or 5 guys on the field or court at the same time, and you got to have some kind of continuity. This is baseball. You can have 9 guys on the field all doing their own thing and be just fine. They don't have to like each other. They don't have to get along with one another. As long as you're swinging a hot stick, as long as the guy on the bump is throwing the ball and getting outs, everything's fine. So we're going to see how it all comes together. But they're all of a sudden really dangerous, are the Padres. Gave up a lot, but they're dangerous now. And the good thing is Soto isn't a free agent for another like 2 seasons after this year. So it's not like they're trading for him and he's a free agent after next year. He's not a free agent until like 2025. So they're going to have him for a while. So they've got time to figure out if they want to re-sign him, if they want to keep him, if they want to move on from him. He's a Scott Boras client, and generally his clients take it to free agency because that's how you maximize your value. So I don't see him signing a deal with the Padres unless he tells Boras, I want to stay here. I like it here. I want to stay here, make it happen. They're going to take it to free agency, and then he's going to sign like a $600 million deal by the time we get there. And it'll be the richest contract in MLB history, more likely than not. But it's a great move by the Padres. They're going for it. They're going for it. For the Nationals, it makes a ton of sense. Their farm system stinks. They're trying to replenish it. But just think about all the talent. It feels like the Jacksonville Jaguars, minus the World Series, of course. Feels like Jacksonville Jaguars. Think about all the talent that was on the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2017, just a mere 5 seasons ago. Think about all the talent that existed on that roster. And now look at it being disseminated all around the NFL. I think about all the talent that was on this Nationals roster back in 2017, 2018. And it's all around MLB now between Trey Turner and um, Bryce Harper and Juan Soto, Max Scherzer. I mean, all of these guys are all over the place now. So it's a great move for the Padres because they're trying to win now. It's a great move for the Nats because he already said that he didn't say he wasn't coming back to the Nationals, but he had turned down a very lucrative offer, but it wasn't the best offer they could have made him, right? So I think it was the learners doing the thing that the learners do, which is penny pinch. They mapped out how much Juan Soto, should cost to the penny, as they always do. And they said, we're not spending a red cent more. Okay. And once they said, hey, this is how much we think you're worth, which wasn't even more than, I think somebody was making like $30 million a year, and his deal would have been something like $28 million or whatever. Like, it wasn't even where it should have been. But that's the learners. You guys know that. Anyway, Anthony Rendon, exactly. All of these guys were on the team just 4 years ago. And to think that they just busted that up, it's crazy to me. So much talent has come through the pipeline. And, even look at the season, and I get it. He was a rental last year, but even look at the season Kyle Schwarber is turning in for the Phillies this year. He was with the Nats last year tearing it up, but they was like, hey, we stink. He's a commodity. He's an asset. We got to move him. He's tearing the cover off the baseball. He was doing it last year for the Nats. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the final segment of the show. And that is garbage time. So we got football last night. Okay. It's the Hall of Fame game. It's preseason football. Take it for what it's worth and with a grain of salt. That said, there's nothing like breaking the seal on the first NFL action of the season. And the rain delay and the extra 40 minutes that I had to wait was well worth it, because you know what? That was actually a well-played game. Jacksonville had a number of their starters in defensively. You didn't get either team's offensive starters except for Josh Jacobs. I've got something to say about that. I'll talk about that in a second. But you got to see the number 1 overall pick. He got a sack and 3 pressures. First of all, can we agree that the personal foul penalty that they called on him on the opening play of the game was bullshit? That was bogus. Like, don't start that shit, okay? Already in the preseason. Don't start that shit. That was a good, clean hit. He didn't even fall on him, so he didn't drive down his weight on him. He didn't hit him in the head, okay? I guess they want to call the neck area. I think his hand was up around the neck. Oh, get out of my face with that stuff. That was garbage. Anyway, he looked good. Trayvon Walker looked good. He was physical, got a sack. The Raiders offensively are going to be good this year. That's not the takeaway from the game, right? The biggest takeaway from the game for me, for the Raiders, 2 things. 1, Daniel Carlson, the kicker, man, is he good. Man, is Daniel Carlson good. Damn it. He banged one home from 55. It was like it was nothing. Right down the pipe with probably another 4 or 5 yards to spare. He's one of the best in the league. That's number 1. Number 2, Josh Jacobs looked really good. Why in the hell was he playing in the game last night? That, to me, is so disrespectful. Now, they already told you how they feel about Josh Jacobs by not picking up the 5th-year option. We talked about this on the podcast when they didn't pick up the 5th-year option. It's kind of eyebrow raising, but then at the same time, when you look at how the Patriots cipher through running backs, you say, Josh McDaniels doesn't give a shit about, Josh Jacobs. He didn't care about the running back position. They'll get 18 running backs and they'll pick out 2 or 3 that they like and they'll keep it pushing. So they're treating him like a disposable back. I don't like it because he's not just a disposable back. He's been injured. He looks spry. He looks fresh. Hopefully he stays that way. But I don't like how the NFL does running backs. He had no business playing in that game last night. None. And the reason they played him is, to me, a much larger scope of things. They said he's not our running back long term. What do we care if we put an extra couple of miles on his tab, right? We don't care if he runs up a couple more miles on the old odometer, right? We care less. After this season, he'll be playing for someone else's team, not ours. So we can put some extra miles on him in the preseason. That's garbage. You're sitting out Devontae Adams and Derek Carr and all of them. He should be sitting out too. This man is running the rock late in the first quarter. He's still in the game. That's garbage. And this is a guy that you should be relying on at some point this season. It's trash. But at the end of the day, he looks good. The Raiders, I thought their offensive line up front dominated and gave them some gaping holes. And I thought it was a well-played game in the first half. I didn't watch any of the second half. I was doing a live stream, but the first half was actually a well-played football game. I enjoyed it. It was good to see professional tackle football on the screen. You never want to see guys get hurt. Tyson Campbell went down last night. Don't know the significance of that injury, but you never want to see that. He's a key contributor for that Jaguars defense. So, and that's the risk that you take playing your guys in the preseason. But, for a young team like Jacksonville, you got to put them on the field. How else are you going to figure out if they can get it done or not? So, oh, man, it was just so good to see football. So good to see football. And now we will be with football. We will not be without football, okay, for the next 6 months. We will have professional tackle football on our television from here on out every single week until February. Really, until February. I said that right, because now they pushed the Super Bowl back a week. The week before is when you don't have any football. That's when you get the Pro Bowl and all that stuff. But that's now in February as well. So we won't have a single week that goes by without football until February. God bless America. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Thank you guys for your time on this Friday. I know that you could have been doing so many other things. It's Friday. It's not the best day outside if you're on the East Coast, particularly in the DMV, but you could have been doing anything. But you're here kicking it with me, your man, Louie T, and I so greatly appreciate you for that. If you haven't already done so, do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button for more great content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button, as it helps this channel grow exponentially. You know what it is. It's weekend time. I told you I wasn't going to hold you up. We're going to get in, get out so you can enjoy your weekend. So go and do exactly that. We will reconvene on the other side of the weekend. Preseason football next week. We'll talk about that because that's on the horizon. Feels so good. Feels good. Feels good to be actually talking about games, even if these don't count. We made it. We made it. Anyway, you guys enjoy your weekend. You know what it is. Get off the bench, get in the game, kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless and good night. LouieTeeNetwork.